Hello, everybody. We are again back to another Hangout on Air with Sophie Sandel and Peter Milligan. And today's topic is leadership, what you plant, you reap. So it's something that we think about leadership styles and more democratic, more authoritative, and you don't normally think that what are the effects on people, what you can get from people after you have your own style. So your own style also creates, I would say, a wave in terms of what you get back, because it's like throwing a stone on a lake. You make a wave, and at some point the wave strikes the shore of the other side of the lake and comes back. And what comes back? So I would like to have your contributions. Sophie, what do you think about this? Leadership, is that true, that what you plant, you reap?
Yeah, I believe so. And I also believe that when we are, it can be anywhere. You work in collaboration, you're volunteering, it's in a business, maybe you run a business. People will always remember how you made them believe in themselves, how you made them, maybe you were hesitating whether you can do something, and you were like making that hesitation a bit bigger. People are going to remember that forever. And if you want people to be brave around you, you want people to believe that what you're trying to do together will work, you have to plant, and you have to harvest, and you have to farm, and you have to make people understand that what you think is possible. It's not impossible. So I truly believe in the metaphor of what you plant is what you reap.
Mm-hmm. So what are your views about this, Peter?
Well, undoubtedly true. The best example I can give you, which is very, very current. My wife has been out of the workforce for 15 years since we moved to the UK. She has a background in the hair and beauty industry. She's very good at customer service, very good at sales. She got an opportunity to work in a store on a part-time job, which was perfect for her. And she came home incredibly excited. Her confidence was back. She was feeling great. She could see how much value she was adding. The area manager said to her, Jane, we wouldn't want to lose you because he can see how sales are improving, customer service is improving. So, and she keeps saying, I'm sorry I keep talking about it, but I'm so happy. I just love what I do. She wasn't paid a lot for it. In fact, she was underpaid for her skills, but it was great for her to get her back into the industry, get her confidence back, and so on. Now, the person who was manager on a temporary basis didn't get the job, and so they recruited someone external who came in. She has no background in the industry. She does have background in retail, but it was fascinating to see my wife's motivation go from 100% down to 0 within 1 week. She then basically resigned, and all of the other members of the team are in the process of resigning at the moment as well. So one person's come in, and look, I work a lot with emerging leaders. She's in her 30s. She's making a lot of the classic mistakes because she doesn't know any better, and she's a product of the environment she's come from as well, to be fair. So she doesn't know any better, but her way of trying to run the place was completely wrong. She came in and did it the way she thought was best, and in the process lost the whole team. A very capable, motivated, experienced team. Now she's going to have to rebuild that. I'm sure she doesn't mind. She'll just recruit people who she's happy to work with, perhaps. But I'd be very surprised.
Like her clones.
Well, yeah.
She will be looking for clones.
Well, her style of management, the sort of people that that would respond to her style of management are not people who are, like my wife, very experienced, very capable, and would want to be spoken to as an equal. There was an issue about rostering, and my wife said, well, we need to sit down as a team and talk about how it works, because up until then they had been working very well as a team. And the new manager said, well, no, because she felt worried that they'd gang up on her. So her way is to build a fortress around herself and issue commands from her position as manager. But of course she's lost all teamwork, she's lost all motivation. So the only people that would respond to that style of management are people who are not particularly capable, and therefore the quality of the service and the sales in that store will definitely go down. So sorry to go on, but I just think it's a beautiful example. And this individual has sowed, and very quickly the crop came back. I just think it's phenomenal that you can lose people's motivation and have people resigning within a couple of weeks of arriving. Yeah, so in my mind, absolutely no doubt.
Mm.
I was talking about the clones because, and I would like to have your view on this. I think one of the biggest mistakes by leaders is to surround, not consciously, but surround themselves with people that are a kind of clone. You can see that lead them tend to choose for instance, the board of directors, people that have more or less the same profile, more or less the same experience, because they understand themselves. They think about teamwork like not really teamwork. They think about like having clones sitting in front, people that will, let's say, enforce what they are saying, that will not have a critical view, that will not have completely out-of-the-box thinking. And I kind of have a crazy theory about the how we see nowadays companies that are very renowned companies, that from one day to another we see them in huge crisis. And that happened a lot in the financial crisis. And I have this crazy theory, and I would like to have your view on this, that at some point in some board, this process is so pure in terms of you have such an amount of clones surrounding you that at some point the products, the services became so complex, and having some credentials coming from major universities. Let's say, let's give you an illustration. A board is talking about a new financial product that is very complex, that is really, really complex, and the person that is presenting this new financial product is considered a wizard in terms of mathematics, in terms of all the certification that has, the masters, the PhDs, whatever. And these people that are in business for many, many years, at some point have two possibilities to say, look, I really don't understand anything of what you said for the last half an hour. Zero. Or they can say, well, that is very interesting. I think we should really look at it. And because you have clones around you, nobody will say, sorry, but did you understand the product? Because I didn't.
Yeah.
And so at some point you have like a group of people saying, yes, we should really do it. Let's go for it. Yeah, go for it. And you get like a mob that is saying, yeah, let's do it, but they don't understand what what is doing it, but because they think, okay, I will not say, sorry, I really don't understand because I don't want to look stupid. So the whole group doesn't understand what they are doing, but they will do something very stupid because they don't understand it, and they rely on credentials that come from outside.
Yeah.
What do you think about this?
Well, I can start. I recently I listened to a podcast about how you're recruiting for certain group, and you starting out getting a clique of certain people who believes in one thing. And often this was a Swedish podcast, and as you know, Sweden is the most equal country in the world, but there are still more CEOs that are, well, of the 100 biggest companies that are named Per than there are women who are CEOs. And and this is just in Sweden. You have the same examples in the UK. It's probably James then. I don't know. But when you start recruit people who are exactly like you, and you start to form the cliques, and these cliques that became just a way of sort of satisfying your own little need of social activities, because that is often what it is. You're excluding some people who might not be interested in that social activities, and that social activities I think is very country driven. But it could be like playing football and going to a sauna, and if not everybody are interested in that, you know, people who are not playing football and in the sauna, they will miss all the information and they will miss all the gossip and everything that you need to know. And if leaders are aware about how to avoid cliques, they make the whole world a big favor, because they will have people who dare to think a little bit critically. And it's such an interesting example when they were like discussing it. And I also know that, like from my experience when I've been leading, I always avoided cliques, and I've done that my whole life. I was very aware about cliques even when I was a kid. When I was young, like 8-9 years old, I was like, oh, those cliques are not good. It makes people feel like outsiders, and I want people to feel like insiders, and that their ideas are welcome and they are contributing. And then I'm sure, you know, we have the same kind of things everywhere, wherever we are. Did we lose Peter now? Did we lose Filipe?
Yeah, we did.
Filipe. Okay.
Because his photo.
Yeah.
He's back. Hello.
So sorry, something happened with my computer.
Yeah. No,
sorry,
I just said in the end that I've seen this in many ways. And when I was a kid, when I was quite young, when I became aware about these cliqueness, and that cliques makes people feel excluded. And if people feel excluded, they will never contribute with the best ideas.
Yeah.
Sorry about I don't know, you didn't lost it was still online.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. It was only me that got out. Okay, yeah. Perfect. Okay, Sophie, you said something that I think it's a good topic for us to discuss. Is the leader makes people believe in themselves. It's an interesting thing that there are many views that the leader is the guy that pulls the wagon, but actually the good leader is, in my view, is the person that makes others excel, and for that they have to first believe in themselves. Okay, but that is the theory. Okay, but how we make people believe in themselves?
Oh yeah, well, I think there are like as many ways as there are people, but if I will generalize and make this topic very well grabbable, I believe that but the example that Peter just mentioned with a woman when they had suggestions and she said no, that's number one. You know, when people have suggestions, please discuss these suggestions. And when you look at team activities and how you share information, because we live in a world which is very technology driven right now, and this technology, I'm sure that we're going to get used to it in the next few years. We're just going to sort of, more people are going to be able to do like a Google Hangout, which is quite complex, or more people will understand social media, which is also quite complex. But we have to share this knowledge, so training, absolutely key. and sharing information. I once worked in a big company where the managing director, she was a very good communicator. Every Friday she sent an email, and she even did this when she was on holiday. She sent an email on a Friday where she recognized people and said, good job, I like this team did this, da da da. And it was just a summary. And when you feel this information, you feel included. And it's many ways you can do it. And I'm sure we're going to see even more sort of ways of doing it. But it's like the small things, and also get people to understand that they can ask questions. Isn't that one of the most powerful leadership things? You know, asking questions, and maybe not expect that someone will have an answer to a complex question immediately. But you know, get things out there and get people thinking. We are thinking creatures. We love a problem. You know, I think it's human to try to solve a problem. And if we can do that together, and everybody will be all right and not be ironic or sarcastic or just like in general to envy. It's probably a quite human behavior that we envy some people all the time. But you know, as long as that doesn't take over and we are like protecting too much. I do believe there's so many ways you can recognize people's behaviors, people's skills, people's ideas. Do that regularly, and you're gonna plant a very strong plant for the future.
Anything to add, Peter?
Yeah, I think it's important to recognize that as a leader you create an environment. You're also a product of your environment as well, but to think consciously about the environment you're creating, because the environment you're creating is the behaviors you will be rewarding and the impact that you have on people's view of themselves. So yeah, so nothing more to add than that at the moment. Thanks.
I have a very simple theory about this, is that you know what is the favorite topic of conversation of anybody in the world?
Themselves?
Me?
Exactly.
So yeah, we talk about social.
So what people love the most is to be heard, because when they are heard, they might not be talking about themselves directly, but they are talking about their vision of the world, their opinion, etc. So when we hear people, we are actually respecting people, and sometimes even people have to hear themselves in order to do the whole brain process in terms of solving a problem. And that happens a lot when we are trying to solve a problem. We start speaking with somebody, and that somebody didn't say anything, but it helped us solving the problem because we heard ourselves.
Because they were listening to us. And I think that's one of the big traps, because you know we have this idea that we can multitask. We have these devices and we're looking at them while someone's talking to us. So we're never giving them 100% attention, and that requires enormous discipline, but we have to recognize the impact of that, and I don't think we do. So sometimes it's very blatant. So talking about, you know, my wife and the new manager coming in, and my wife was trying to explain something or put a point of view across about something in a very, you know, nice, reasonable way, and the manager just put a hand up and said, no, I don't want to listen to this. I'm not interested. And that's the most insulting thing you can do to anybody. You're welcome to disagree. You're welcome to put forward another point of view and work with the person to talk the issues through. But when you say no, you know, you physically put your hand up, that's the end, because you're basically saying your point of view doesn't even matter. And that's when the motivation completely disappears, and that's where you'll lose good people and break down relationships. But the whole thing around focus, I remember many years ago I was doing an assignment for an organization, and the senior executive who sponsored the work, I'd worked with myself, and he'd sponsored me to work with his members of his team. And we had a meeting with him. The HR person and I had a meeting to talk about progress. he walked into the meeting and his mind was all over the place. He was thinking about a million things, and he was looking at his BlackBerry, and I was sitting there, and the meeting was almost an hour, and I thought, I would rather have 5 minutes of your undivided attention than 1 hour with you not totally present. And I never forgot that, and I think it's so important for us to really, really work hard to give each other full attention.
Yeah, that's a point that I'm trying to explain in my trainings about communication, is that and that is an extremely important point nowadays, is that people think about, and you were saying quite right, the question of multitasking, and they are like trying to answer emails or checking emails while somebody else is talking. And what people don't understand is that communication is 93% nonverbal. And if I'm looking to my phone at the same time on my computer, whatever, and not facing and not looking to the person that I'm talking with, I'm losing 93% of communication. So a person can be saying the perfect correct words, but I don't see that the person that is saying that doesn't believe that, doesn't will not enforce that wherever, and I will be creating a mistake, and that person even will have. But I explained to you at the time, and I was like, no, but what I heard was correct, and it's really an issue. And for instance, I see too many meetings nowadays where people are with their computer open, and theoretically they are taking notes and everything, but actually there are some emails entering, and they are doing like a ritual. It's like, we have to do this, but in reality we are not here. Yeah. We are like 2 to 5% here through the whole meeting. And this is a ritual that, again, it's like somebody that I need some self-esteem, so I need some audience, and I need to have the power of putting like 10 people in the room, so I can show that. And I think it's one of the big issues that we are having nowadays in offices, is that people do these kind of meetings that are completely useless, but they work on the self-esteem of who is presenting. And I don't know how, because I really hate this kind of meetings. I'm always escaping and say, I don't want to do a meeting. And people think that I'm a bit antisocial, but when I do a meeting, I like really to be on the meeting and do and have like a 5 to 15 minutes meeting, and not 1 hour where it's like a ritual. It's like a ritual, and it's really complicated. And then that goes to the technology part that Sophie was talking, and Sophie has been working on this, the digital leadership, how we which best practices and also worst practices you can point in terms of using the technology to create a leadership that is something that is worth reaping afterwards, or you get a really bad crop at the end. How do you have some good examples and bad examples of using technology in terms of leadership, and what you can get afterwards?
Well, I probably have, but I want to make one point first, and that's
okay.
When businesses and organizations today are developing technology, many of these technologies has been developed very ad hoc over the years. Mm-hmm. You know, social media has been in our lives now, say, since 2007 properly, and we have had chief information officers before that. They were implementing lots of different systems to even make databases connect, servers, get lots of different technology in the house that's going to help us. And we have customer service that's very technology driven, and lots of these different technologies have been driven in a way which has been very silo focused. So they've been developed in silos, 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 and now you want everyone to do the same. And I think where we are now, leaders have to sort of try to get people to use technology in the same way and get more people to know about them. And the way that many people are communicating, the most common way, is still through emails.
That is an awful tool, by the way.
Well, I think it's all right if you use it well.
Yes. The problem is that, in my view, 80% of emails are a big mistake.
Yeah, of course, it's not 100%. But I did here is the future of a SWOT analysis about the digital economy, and we have many strengths in the digital economy and technology and how we're using it, but it's also many weaknesses, and many people are scared of making decisions because there is no best practice. And then what we reap,
we are still learning.
And like what we're going to reap is going to be like the effect of how we dare to use those technologies. But if we just use things in silos, even though it's a great invention and nobody else can copy it, so you're a large organization, you need to sort of spread it around, and you need to get people engaged. And many people are, one of the biggest threats is lack of skills and lack of awareness and culture. And I do believe that the culture is the sort of attitude towards new ideas in general can kill almost anything. It can kill any kind of new amazing projects. You're like, oh, no, we don't do it. We wait for 1 year. And many companies that have this attitude, let's wait, they lose talents. People don't want to wait. They want to do things. You have this problem, you get people doing things maybe ad hoc, and then you get people doing things in silos, and then you don't get people who don't do anything. It's quite messy. It's not that easy, I would say, but I do believe that you have to understand a little bit more and also work on your behavior, because culture is all about behavior, like the general behavior of an organization that becomes the culture.
One thing that it was interesting that you said was companies lose people, and I would even add, and stay with the wrong ones, because the most innovative will leave because a company is always waiting for something. Oh yeah, we have to see this in the long run. We will, and they will not, because the wrong people will stay, the people that don't want to change. And one of the things that you said also was the lack of skills. And many times the lack of skills is like, okay, the company doesn't provide the training that it should do. And I think that we have to stop with this idea that is the company that has all the obligation to provide the skills. Even the other day I had like a case of somebody saying, well, I'm sorry about this. I'm not very good with technology, and it is in the area that it should be good with technology already, because it's a tool, it's a working tool, it's nothing special. And I would be embarrassed to say this nowadays, because if you are in an office, you cannot use that as an excuse, because nowadays you have the possibility, if the company doesn't tell you how to do, you always have the possibility to search for information. You have Google. You can search for everything, and if you don't know, you search it and you try to teach yourself. You have to stop in this world with the idea that somebody else will have to teach you, has the obligation to teach you, and if nobody else teach you, you have a kind of duty to perform badly. Yeah. What is really, really, really stupid. So I think one of the things that a leader should challenge, and it's also what you planned, is to challenge people to do their own learning paths and to make them accountable for that also. And if they need extra help, they will get it. But the first effort should be of the person themselves. It's not the question, I cannot do that, please send me to training. And that's it. What do you think about this, Peter?
Yeah, I'm in an interesting position in that I'm the oldest I'm the oldest of the three of us, and I have a very unusual profile because I was working with computer technology over 35 years ago, and before PCs existed, you know, there was no internet and all of that. And yet, ironically, I'm now at a stage of life where I struggle a lot with new technology. It's changing so fast. And I think in organizations, you can have very capable people who didn't grow up with the technology, who have a lot to contribute. And if you have a young leader who has grown up with the technology, they just assume that everyone understands it. And I agree with that. Ultimately, everyone has to be responsible, but I think it's really important to make it easy, simple, accessible for people, and to give them the encouragement to learn. You know, the lady who lives across the street from us, she's in her mid-70s, and she's very tech-savvy. She's made an effort to learn that. So it just proves that you know, anybody can do it. But I think in an organisational setting, if you go back to our earlier comments about people in meetings may not understand something or may not agree with it, but they feel like they're the only one who doesn't understand or agree. So they suffer in silence. And I think there has to be a sensitivity, particularly from a younger leader who's grown up with the technology, that there may be people in the room who are just, you know, maybe 10 years older, who didn't ride that same wave, who just need a little bit of support and a little bit of help, and to have some sensitivity to that. So that's all I'd say. Ultimately, yes, they need to learn it, but for somebody to just say to them, look, I know this can be quite difficult, and you know, we're going to have some special little training sessions, or somebody's going to provide you with a little bit of support and mentoring to get you used to it. Because like everything, you know, we have to take baby steps to get our confidence. And if you have someone who, you know, just like the best teachers are people who remember the struggle. I remember going to lectures at university, and someone who's been doing, you know, statistics for 30 years stands up and does a lecture because they know this stuff so well and it's so obvious to them. So I would just advocate that in organizations where you have diverse populations across, you know, age, that there needs to be sensitivity to that.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes me think about like how, because I have been teaching at university, and my students, who are maybe between 22 and 25, they are digital natives. You know, they grew up with it, but they don't know everything. You know, just because they know a lot about computers doesn't mean that they can see the big picture of how technology is.
Absolutely, and that's a really
everything.
Actually, Sophie, I don't agree with you. They are not digital natives. They are not digital natives. Those ages are not digital natives. And let me give you an example of that.
Okay.
I teach also to those ages, and I have like a kind of exercise that I do with them, that they have to do an online video presenting content of the course.
Yeah.
And their first reaction to always to this kind of exercise is a bad one. And you might think, but they are so used to YouTube. They are so. But the thing is that it's for them is not. They are still migrants. The digital natives are the kids that are now at the most 15 years old. Because for them, photography was always digital. Communication for them has been digital. Always, always, always. Everything is digital. And these guys are a generation that I think is a transition generation. That is one that is going to suffer a lot, because the generation that is coming next is really, really much more demanding in terms of the digital world. They don't. Their first tendency is to check on YouTube things, and also they don't understand why we do classes like we do, and that will change because when we talk about changing the way we teach and the way we learn, it has to be a two-way road. Meaning that it's not only the teachers and the institutions that have to change, it's also the students. They have to change their shift of, I'm going to a class and wait for knowledge to come to me. And that's is the thing that I was trying to explain before, is that we have to, as leaders, we have to put in the minds of people, look, knowledge is all around.
Yeah.
The only thing that I should help you is to help you to draw the path of how you get the knowledge. But that is your responsibility. You should do the gathering of that knowledge. It's not like before that you would have to hold the hand of the person and go from stage to stage. Because nowadays you can do a lot of things. You can, for instance, you can hear this hangout. You can see a lot of other videos, a lot of PDFs, a lot of information is now not a scarce resource. You have it everywhere. So the big challenge is not to help people to do it in the same way as before in terms of their learning path. The challenge is, look, you can do it in a completely different way, but it's your responsibility. It's not others that are responsible for your path. Because whatever, also in that, wherever you plant, you reap.
But like also, like what you're doing there, you're throwing a lot of responsibility on individuals. And there are lots of systems. There are lots of systems that are set up that human beings are just in, which we cannot really affect as an individual. And
for example?
Well, we have school systems, we have educational systems, and they are just set up. And you might have a horrible working environment where there's very little time for learning, and you might have a very busy life outside work. When are you going to learn if nobody's providing the learning? I can understand. I see your point. You know, I think it's very important to sort of open up your brain and take it in whatever is possible. But human beings will sort of live in a world which is very dependent on the system and the structure that's set up around us. Can I say one thing more?
Yes.
In Sweden, for instance, it's almost impossible for a teacher to reprimand and say something to a kid. You know, the teacher will almost be like out of their job if they are strict, and that's a system problem. And I've been to lots of different sort of, I don't know, in many social situations where people's behavior is affecting people's enthusiasm for certain things. So it's like both give and take. And I can see your point, like, you know, you do need to learn, but then you're like, often we can be stuck in certain ways because that's how things are planted and that's how it is. And you're not going to get like really high results. And also, like, if you are in a I've seen this in many companies and organizations I work with. If people don't dare to sort of enjoy what they're doing, it's very hard for them to actually develop the skills. They are like, they're scared all the time.
What you plan to reap.
Yeah. They're like, I'm scared of suggesting this, but I know everything in here, but I cannot show it on the outside, and they get really stuck. So yeah, I can see like there are knowledge and wisdom is like big interesting topics.
Maybe the next one.
Yeah.
So we have another topic for the next one that probably will be after the holidays in September. So we are reaching our time. Do you want to add something else, Peter or Sophie?
No, nothing from me, thanks.
No.
Sophie?
No.
So no questions from the audience. I was waiting for some questions from the audience. If there is a question, this is the last the last opportunity. And if there is no questions, Sophie and Peter, thank you very much for once again sharing. As I always say, it's always an opportunity. I think this is, we are doing this as also as a kind of brain exercise, because we have our views and at the same time we are learning with each other. And you see, we are responsible for our own learning experience. We are creating ways, imaginative ways of learning with each other. We are far apart, but we are with the technology, you see, with the technology, we are learning with each other, like we are like doing a meeting. Let's meet in somewhere so we can talk about this subject. So we have questions, and even we are sharing our learning experience with others. At the same time, we are having that experience. And this is the beauty about the technology that we have nowadays, that we can share the learning experience that we are having at the moment that we are having. No more notebooks, writing down what people are saying. Much more interesting like this.
Yeah,
So,
I love to listen as well. I agree. Great.
Peter and Sophie, thank you very much for another learning experience.
Thank you.
Have a good summer, everyone.
Yeah, happy
Likewise, likewise.
holidays. Happy holidays.